Hi, if you're already live, I'm going to post something on the chat for you just to think about. Michael. While you're waiting for others, hey, Aiden. So while you're waiting, Aiden, I want you to think of some creative ways that you see fractions in your life, and I'll share one of mine once we get more people in. So while you're waiting for others to join, think, hey, Alex, of some ways you see fractions around you. So think of things that, like, how could you find fractions? Where do you see fractions? Hey, Emily, where do you see fractions in your world? And try to be creative. Let's think of something other than pizza and cookies and cake, even though those are great. Around you. Be creative. Oops. Trying to type. And I had to type. Hey, Raquel. So those that just joined, while we're waiting for people to come in, I want you to think of some ways we see fractions in our world outside of school. We've talked about pizza, we've talked about cake and cookies, and everything that we do split up into parts. So think about some creative ways that we haven't thought of yet. So keys. I wonder, Aiden, how are keys representing fractions? That's interesting. That's very creative because I can't think of a way. Oh, Grayson's here. Hey, Grayson, books. Okay, so Aiden is sharing keys, books, things that just objects in our house. Hey, Francis, I'm glad you could join us. So, chocolate, yes, chocolate's definitely a thing that we break up into parts, or we look at it as a whole, and then we look at just parts, little bitty parts of that whole. So think of it like that. So think of things that you see around your house, in your life, that is a whole, and you're breaking up little parts. So Grayson, I want you to look at what I posted in the chat. So while you're thinking, we're waiting for a little bit more people to join, think of some ways you see fractions around you. Be creative. We're talking about things that are more than just pizza or cookies. So Aiden said 12 books in all in a shelf. 9 of 12 are being read. That's a really good example, Aiden. So we have Aiden seeing that whole shelf as one, and then he's taking a part of that one whole shelf as a fraction of that whole shelf. So Grayson said, stuff in my banana muffins. Yeah, your banana muffins, you had to use fractions. Oh, Memphis is here. Yay. So Memphis and Chloe, yes. And we got Brennan. Fantastic. So those that just joined, if you look at what I posted on the chat, it says, while we're waiting, I want you to think of, it's kind of like our bell ringer. I'm sorry. So you're thinking around our house. Hey, Nicholas and Kinsley, yay, and Chloe. We got so many great people. All right, so as you're waiting and we're thinking, in your house around you, where could we find fractions? More than just, we talk about pizza and cake and cookies all the time, and we share it out. But I want you to think of something else that would be like the whole, and we're looking at just a part of that whole. So Aiden gave a good example of looking at that shelf as a whole, and one part of that shelf is the books being read. Okay, Snickers, yes. Puzzles. I love these examples. So Emily and Memphis, could you explain what you mean by um, puzzles and Snickers? How could we find fractions in both of those? And Grayson, a whole house and the different rooms. Good. So we would see one whole house with different rooms being part of the fraction. Okay. Oof. Well, I'm making you think today, Memphis. Is that a like this is hard kind of oof, or did you fall? Okay, so while y'all are, coming up with some good ideas, this weekend hey Reagan. So Reagan, we're thinking of creative ways that we've seen around the house that would represent a fraction, something that's creative, more than pizza and cookies and stuff that we've already talked about. So people are coming up with some great ideas as when you are thinking of these things, think of a fraction as a whole thing, and we're looking at just a part of that one whole thing. We've talked about books on a shelf, one whole shelf of books, and we're talking about just a part of that. Some people talked about a whole house, one whole house, and the rooms, the parts of that house. Oh yeah, your fridge, one whole fridge with the different compartments. Okay. What about arepas? Raquel, can you explain what that is? Cabinets. So maybe one whole kitchen, Brennan, with the different cabinets of that one whole kitchen. Love it. Bathroom tiles, yes. So Reagan, we're talking about creative ways that we can see fractions in our house and things around us. A couch, one whole couch with different seats. I love it. Okay. Aiden came up with another idea, 100 megabytes, one set of 100 megabytes are in a computer, 60 of them are being used. So 60 out of 100, 60 hundredths of that amount of space is being used in that computer. Good. One table with chairs around it, so that one setting, and we can talk about the different chairs. Good. Oh, okay. So when Raquel's saying arepas, I'm probably butchering that. Arepas are like pancakes, but made with corn. So, Raquel, you use fractions when you cook things like arepas. And I hope I'm pronouncing it right, but probably not. I'll work on it. Magnifying glass. Nicholas, what do you mean by magnifying glass showing fractions? Legos is a really good, yes. So Memphis, Legos we use a lot. Even with Michael, we talk about the different parts. No, I didn't. Raquel, I'm going to have to work on the pronunciation. I think my husband, Dr. Olson, probably could do it better. He speaks that better than me. Pantry, one pantry with different bars. Okay. So Grayson's room, one room with the different parts in her room. And Nicholas, yes. So you're talking about a magnifying glass where you can see the whole and then the different little parts that are being magnified. I love it. And computer with different keys, that definitely is. So I'm going to show y'all while y'all can keep on sharing what y'all think. So this weekend I was making an apron for Michael. So because he wanted to run a store, and so we made an apron. And as I was making the apron, and I had to put a pocket at the bottom, I had to center it. so I knew that it needed to be, um, I had to do some math. And so it ended up being where I had to find half of 7 3/4. So I had to split 7 inches. I had to split 7 inches, 7 3/4 inches in half. Okay. Yes, I agree, Memphis. Math is cool. Okay, so this is what I had to do this weekend. I'm like, oh, so really I'm doing this. Divided by 2. That's really complicated. And you can ask your parents that when we were learning this, it there was a lot of rules we had to memorize. But I was like, this weekend I didn't feel like deciding this. Okay, so I had to take this amount and divide it by 2 to help me with my apron. So this is what I had to do. This is what I decided. Now, this is my ruler that I use to help me sew. It's see-through, see? Okay. So if I'm finding 7, this is 7 3/4, where my finger is right here. Okay. So as I was trying to figure this out, I knew that I had 7 whole inches. So I need to divide that in half. Well, I knew 7 whole inches, it would be 3, and 3 would be 6. Well, I need 1 more inch. I know I could take that 1 more inch right here and divide that in half and make a half. Okay. So I'm going to write what I just did. I took this 7 and I split just the 7 inches in half, which ended up being 7 whole inches divided by 2 was 3 whole inches and 1/2 of the other inch. Okay. Now, Aiden, if I do remainders, that's not going to help me find the exact middle part. So, I've got to do this whole thing in half, this whole distance in half. So I did my whole number. So I did my 7 whole inches in half, but I still need to do 3/4 in half. That was the tricky part for me. So I looked at 3/4. I don't know if you can see. Let's see if we can look at this. So you see the little lines? So we see this is, let's see, where are we? That right there is 3/4. So this amount I need to split in half. Well, if I do 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, that doesn't really fit in half. Like I can't do that really easily, doing 3 things in half. So I took it and I said, wait a minute, that 3/4 right here is this equivalent to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 eighths. I'm counting eighths now. I took each fourth and split it into eighths. We've done this before. So now is 6 things easier to split in half? So I know y'all are discussing how Memphis is hungry, but hopefully you were paying attention when I said I can't. It's hard for me to do 3/4, 3 things in half. That gives us some remainders, and we have to do some extra fancy stuff. But because I know equivalent fractions, if I look here, I was counting 1, 2, 3/4. And then, since that's hard, and because 3 is an odd number, we can't split that in half evenly. I want to make it into an even number. So each of those fourths, let's see if I can get it there. Each of those fourths has 2 in them. Do y'all see? This is a fourth right here, but that fourth has 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hey, Sierra, we're talking about fractions. Okay, so what did those that were just was following me from the beginning? Who could tell me what I just counted? I'm gonna do it again. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 what? So I'm trying to divide. Let's see if I can. Can y'all see that? All right. So I'm trying to divide this amount from here to here in half. So 6/7, you're very close, Kinsley. Okay, you're very, very close. 6/8. Let's see. Remember that from here 7 to my next whole inch. We'll see how many of those things that I was counting to make a whole inch. Let's see. Let's do it this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we are in eighths right here because 8 of those parts make up that whole inch. Now I was trying to do 6 of those. I was trying to divide. Really, my original problem was 3/4. But 3 things is hard to divide in half. Good, Reagan, yes. So 6/8 is easier to divide because it's an even number, but it's still equivalent. I'm still counting. I'm either can count 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, or I can count by eighths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6/8. Now, can I divide 6 of those eighths in half? And if so, how much would 6 of those eighths be if I divided in half? So I'm going to draw it out while y'all think. Remember, we're thinking if I do 3/4 in half, ignore the 7 that we did, 3/4 divided in 2. This is what my ruler looked like. So I had this originally, 3 of those fourths. That was my distance. But then I said that's hard to divide in half. So I am going, now this should look familiar. I am going to make it easier. I want it an even number of parts. So now I have 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 eighths. So this amount right here is 6/8. I have 6 of those things. I want half of it. So I could take that eighth and change it into tacos. It's just a unit. That bottom, that denominator, is just a unit. So if I have 6 of something and I want to share it into 2 groups, 3 would be in each group, just like a few people have been saying. Can you see it now, Emily? It's hard to write and make sure I'm in there. Okay. So Sierra, we're gonna get there. Okay. So hang with us. I was showing what I did somewhere I was making an apron for Michael this weekend, and I had to divide 7 3/4 inches in half. And that's kind of fancy and that's seems difficult. So I broke it down to something that was easier. So I did my 7 whole inches in half. And then that 3/4 of an inch, we're figuring that out now. Okay. So if I did half of that 3/4, remember we made it into 6/8, which is equivalent. So 1, 2, 3, that's halfway. 1, 2, 3, that's another half. And that's stuff that we do all the time. Okay. We're just talking about eighths or fourths. Okay. So this would be 3/8 is 1/2. So I took that 3/4. Let me erase this now. I did 3/4 divided by 2. And y'all are saying it is now super easy because we saw it as a unit as 3/8. Now I'm putting this and this together to find my total halfway distance. Okay. Now, can I do this? And yes, y'all are doing really good. Okay. So I want everybody thinking, can I add 3.5 plus 3/8 just as is? So it'd be 3 and 1 plus 3 is 4. Can I add that 1 and 3 together, my numerators together? Nah. No. So people are saying, no, we can't. And we talked about in class that these are two different things. That's like cupcakes and tacos. One cupcake plus 3 tacos is, we don't know. We can't say 4 something. The denominators are different. So we've got to do something that makes them the same. So I'm going to do my tape diagram again. Is there a way that I can make them the same but not change the values? And yes, we have to have a common denominator because they're not the same. Our units are not the same. So does anybody, oh, we can multiply. Yes, we could multiply. Do you want to change our half or change our eighths? What do you think is going to be easier, changing our half or changing our eighths? Chloe, did you do that on purpose? Because that's kind of cool. You're thinking. I don't know. Is it? Oh, it's buffering. Is your brain buffering? Oh, okay. So I have some great things here. So people are saying we might need to, it might be easier to change our half into an equivalent fraction. So y'all are saying that my half right here needs to be into that unit. So this amount, that's half, needs to be into eighths. Okay? So let's do that. We're going to do it by the picture first, and then we'll check it with multiplication. Okay? So ready? So I'm going to make these two parts into 8 parts. Okay, so Sierra, you're saying, no, you're not ready? Do you have a question before we jump into that? Okay, because we're trying to figure out this 1/2 plus 3 of these eighths. We cannot say they're 4. Are we going to say 4/2, 4/8? And people are saying that we have to find a common unit, a common denominator. The denominators have to be the same for us to add. Just like when I'm adding tacos and cupcakes, I can't just say 1 taco plus 3 cupcakes is 4. We can't say that because we don't know what our units would be. Okay, so this is my half that I'm going to make into eighths, but that amount is going to stay the same. So we would have, what would I do to this half to make eighths? How many parts would each of these halves have? Okay, I'm going to give you a hint. Okay. So here's my half. I want it to be in eighths. And some people are chiming in with what it probably is. Oh, the 3/8, Emily, was when we divided that 3/4 in half. Okay. So this half, I want it to be a total of 8 parts. Right now I have just 2 parts. So I've got to do something to make these 2 parts into 8. So if I put, awesome. So a lot of y'all are saying if I take these halves and I break it up into 4 parts in each of those halves, sounds a lot like what we would say for multiplication. So now I have 8 parts, but that shaded area right here that was originally half became 4/8. So now this half, I can replace it with this. Did I change the value of it now, or did it stay the same? Good, Reagan, yes. Hey, Jack, I just realized you're in here. Awesome. I'm glad you joined us. Yes, 4/8. Okay, so did I change the value? Is it still that same amount? Yes, we would be timesing the 4. It would be because we're changing the type of unit we're counting. Yes. Okay, so we did not change this amount. We just changed what we're saying, we're renaming it. Kind of like we rename 10 ones as 110. It doesn't change the value, it just changes the name of it. So this amount, now we can add, we have the same amount of same units that we're counting, 4 of these plus 3 of these would be how many? How many eighths would this be if I did 4 of these plus 3 of these? Okay, so I got some people chiming in. So 4 of these plus 3 more of the same type of unit, which would be a total of 7/8. Okay, so Now when I'm adding this, yes, my fraction is 7/8, but I still have, don't forget, we still have 3 whole numbers, 3 whole inches. So 3 and 7/8. So when I did my apron, I was trying to find this, the halfway point of this distance, halfway point, I found out it needed to be a total of 3 and 7/8. Okay. Oh, is Peyton here? Yay. All right. So Peyton, if I didn't say hi and you've been here, sorry. It's kind of, it's takes practice seeing the chat and teach. It's interesting. All right. So I'm going to give y'all another kind of a thinking question. Okay. And this was on your LEAP review. Okay. So we had 2 times, I got to remember what it was now. Hold on. Let me go back to it. There we go. All right. So 2 times 4, 6. Of course, y'all got it right because y'all are awesome. I've always said that. Okay. All right. So this was on your LEAP review for this week. This is not going to be hard because we already know that this right here means that we're doing something 2 times. That's all it is. I'm going to do something 2 times. Remember in class, we said this could be a picture, and I would do that 2 times. Whatever this is, I'm going to do it 2 times. So I'm going to see it like this. Uh-oh, Nicholas, everything got deleted. I'll look and see if I can see it on my end, okay? How about that? All right. So we're doing this, whatever this is. No, you cannot say the answer yet. Nobody says the answer yet. Okay? This right here, we're going to do it 2 times. I'm not trying to solve it yet. That's very difficult. All right, so I'm not trying to solve it yet. I want to make it easier on myself by doing this. Okay? So whatever it is, we're putting, remember, this is the tape diagram. We're putting 2 parts together. We're going to add them together to make my whole, to make my total up here. Okay? So I have 4 of these plus 4 of the same unit. So now I want you to think, what's 4 of these units plus 4 and more of those units? Same unit. So we can add them together. So how many of these units are we going to have? And you can go ahead and say it. So I'm trying to find the total. How many of these 6 would I actually have? Okay, so I'm getting some people saying we're having 12, 6. 12. Now I know Brennan says 1 and 2, 6. Let's think about this. Okay, let's break it up into a picture. I have 4 of these 6, so that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this would make 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This would be another one. Okay. So 4, 6. Emily, I'll come back to that in just a second, okay? So 4 of these. Now these are called 6. 1, 6, 1, 6, 1, 6, 1, 6. I could count these as I count them. 1, 6, 2, 6, 3, 6, 4, 6. So that's that one. Then I'm going to add 4 more 6. Okay, so 4 more of those 6. So now I have a total of 8 of those 6. Now Brennan said 1. So we ended up doing one whole thing. 1 and 2 more of the next one. 2 more 6. Everybody see that? Yeah. So this should be ringing a bell. If this starts getting confusing or even dividing, we'll go back to that in a little bit, then make your picture. Figure out what that times or that dividing actually means, okay? Yes. Good job, guys. Y'all are doing great. See, remote learning, y'all got this. All right? So as you're working this week on your packet, because it is fractions, if it starts gets overwhelming, take a break, breathe, look at that problem, not as just a math fact. Look at it as a story. We've been talking about that all year. And when you finally do that, it becomes really easy for you. Okay? Just like I said, oh, wait, that time means I'm doing something 2 times. And then from there, when we made our diagram, it worked. We didn't have to memorize anything wild. We just had to make sure we knew that our units had to be the same, and which they were, so we didn't have to do anything fancy, and then drew a picture of it. That's all it is. Okay? So going back, hey, Chloe's mom. Carla is right. So who's Carla? Oh, Sierra. Maybe that was supposed to be Sierra. Yeah, Sierra is right. Okay. It is easy to get the answer. So, Grayson, all I did here was tell the story here because this confused me. I didn't want to make new things, something else in my mind. I didn't want to memorize any steps. So I knew this times means I'm doing whatever this is here 2 times. You see that? 2 times. And then from there, because I knew that those parts are being added together, I could make those 6, because they're the same units, I can add those 6 together. So I just drew a picture to figure it out. From there, I said, oh, wait, because we're in 6 and it takes 6 parts to make one whole, I now can see it as either 8 of those units, 8, 6, or one whole number, 1, 1, and 2, 6 of the next whole number. So yeah, you can do it with what we just did can be expressed in numbers too, in equations. I just did it as a story because this is what's happening in your brain when you do it. Okay. All right. So Emily had asked where that 3/8. Let me look back what Emily said. I was wondering how you got 8 as a denominator in 3/4 if you're dividing. So back to my apron story. So my apron story, Emily said, okay, so we did this, divided by 2 equals, and this is where we ended up. That looks like it should not make sense. Okay, and now for those that just chimed in, we're going back to Emily had asked how we got, when we divided this amount in half, we ended up with 8. That 4 into 8. That doesn't really, seems like it shouldn't make sense. So all we did, Emily, was this. I'm going to draw a picture. Okay. We're going to take this amount, 3/4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That makes my whole. And shade in 3 of these fourths. Now, and Aiden is right. We're taking this amount and making it smaller. The units smaller because we're dividing it into smaller groups or smaller size of groups. Okay, so I'm going to take this whole thing and divide it in half. I want you to watch, Emily. I just drew the story. That's all I did. I took this 3/4 and I divided it in half. Now, I want to say, so all my units got divided in half. I ended up having 8 of them. So that's where we're getting the eighths from. But that doesn't really quite. Yes, Emily, we're going over your question right now. Okay. So let's go back to our 3/4 again. If I take, let's look at it as a ruler. Okay. So here's my ruler. I have 1 inch. This is 1 inch. This is 1/4 of an inch. That's 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 the same thing as me looking at my ruler here. And I see that's 1/4, that's 1/4, that's 1/4, and then over here. Okay. So now I need to divide this part, this right here, in half. Well, if I do that, so guys, I have 3 things. I can't divide 3 in half evenly. You would have to do something fancy. Okay. So I'm going to take these fourths and make it into something that I could divide in half evenly, which I can make it into eighths. Now I have 6 of these eighths, and I can divide 6 of those in half. So I could say 1, 2, 3, that's one group. 1, 2, 3, that's another group. So if I divide this amount in half, I could have 3 in each of my groups. 3 what? We would say 3/8. Hey, Chloe's sister. 3/8. These are not fourths anymore. These are eighths. Okay, if I look at my ruler here, here, we would say eighths are here. And then those fourths, sorry, I got distracted because I heard something. Hang on just 1 second. Michael, are you okay? Oh, okay. All right. So my ruler, you see that? It's already broken up those fourths, have the eighths already in them. So now I could divide it evenly. Okay. Hey, Corbin. All right. So sorry, I got distracted at the end. So Emily, hopefully that kind of shows you a little bit why when we divided 3/4 into eighths, divided 3/4 in half, we ended up having eighths. If it doesn't quite make sense, look back at the beginning and see if that happened. Okay. Hey, Kinsley. Yeah, internet kind of gets us down too. So just look back because I'm going to shut it down in just a second. But look back at the beginning of the video, and if you have any other questions, you can either comment or you can send me a message through Google Classroom, or you can have your parents send me a message on Remind. So Emily, but you can't take two whole numbers out of a number that hasn't even made one. You sure? We're not making two whole numbers out of it. It's not two whole numbers, two whole ones. We're taking that one whole and dividing the parts up into half. That whole distance and halving them, putting them into two groups and finding the size of one of those groups. Okay? So hopefully maybe that kind of, like I said, try to look back at the beginning of the video, see if that kind of helps you going reviewing it. If it doesn't, then I will be glad. Shoot me a question. I'll be glad to maybe clarify it a little bit more. Okay? All right, guys. Yes, Grayson, I have tasted taco soup, and it is fantastic, and it's full of fractions when you make it. Okay? All right, guys. It's time for me to say bye. Before I go, I put a Kahoot challenge for fractions on your Google Classroom. You can work at your own pace, but it's a challenge. So you can go and say, you can figure out, see where you rank, or you can keep it a secret. It's okay. But it's just a fun thing to see, hey, what your brain's doing. Okay, so it's on your Google Classroom, and it'll be fun to see how everybody's doing. All right, bye guys. I miss y'all. Hopefully soon we'll get together in an actual classroom. All right, have a good week.